Do not pass go. Tough new airport testing rules come into force in a bid to stop the spread of COVID. A message from Pyongyang. North Korea launches its second missile in a week. Raising eyebrows. China deploys a former Xinjiang paramilitary chief to lead Hong Kong's garrison. Plus, there's an app for that. The Taiwan developed technology that can detect heart problems, no problem. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Taiwan is ramping up measures to stop the spread of COVID as it grapples with a rise in cases. New airport rules are now in place, and while they are causing longer wait times, they have been effective in finding positive COVID cases before they leave the airport. Bing Wang reports.
Taiwan's Health Minister Chen Shizhong inspects the new protocols at Taiwan's main international airport in Taoyuan. Passengers from long-haul flights such as Europe, the United States, the Middle East, New Zealand, and Australia will have to undergo PCR tests on arrival and wait for results. Anyone who tests positive will be sent directly to hospitals. But with multiple long-haul flights per day, there are worries that waiting for results at the airport will cause congestion. The first long-haul flight arrived in Taiwan from Sydney, Australia. 4 out of the 41 passengers tested positive. The entire process took over 2 hours, but the health minister has confidence in the new procedure.
最大问题就是飞机的班次看起来有时候就是会快一点到，有快点到的时候，我们就本来预计好的那个 schedule 就会有一点挤到，不过没关系，这第一次嘛，今天机场的作业跟那个医院的作业大家磨合起来，应该会速度更快了。
As of Tuesday morning, 17 out of the 253 long-haul passengers have tested positive. Taoyuan City's mayor is worried that the city won't have enough hospital beds for those with COVID-19.
目前 ICU 加上责任病房最大容量是到907床，但是以确诊数字来说，那很快的累积会超过。
Again, the health minister assuages those concerns.
在机场，我们可能尽量要往外县市来送，我们要北区跟台北区。
With the revised rules for testing at airports, reducing overcrowding in hospitals, and the opening of new vaccination sites, the government has strong hopes this will reduce the spread of COVID-19 to the local population. Kama Xu and Bing Wang for TaiwanPlus.
Hong Kong is implementing new measures to fight the spread of COVID-19. Starting Saturday, passengers from high-risk countries will no longer be allowed to transit through Hong Kong International Airport. There are 150 countries on the territory's high-risk list. The measure is expected to last for 1 month through February 14th, though that date may change. The transit ban will not likely to apply to diplomats, government officials, or athletes and staff taking part in the upcoming Beijing Winter Olympics. Hong Kong is already dealing with a small community outbreak of the Omicron variant of the COVID-19 virus. The government has also announced that childcare centres, kindergartens and primary schools will suspend face-to-face classes from Friday. North Korea has launched what is expected to be a ballistic missile off the east coast of the Korean peninsula, the second projectile fired in less than a week. Last week, Pyongyang launched what it says was a hypersonic missile, although many experts doubt the nation has such capabilities. North Korea is barred from testing ballistic missiles and nuclear weapons under international law. Tuesday's test came just hours after the US ambassador to the United Nations called on the North to end its weapons program.
As we move to consultations shortly, we encourage the Security Council to stand united in opposing the DPRK's ongoing destabilizing and unlawful actions. We also call on all member states to fulfill their sanctions obligations under the Security Council resolution. Our goal remains the complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. We are prepared to engage in and support serious and sustained diplomacy to that end. It is the DPRK that now must choose dialogue and peace over its unlawful and threatening weapons program. Thank you very much.
A senior paramilitary police chief who led counter-terrorism campaigns in China's Xinjiang region has been appointed the new commander of the military's Hong Kong garrison. Major General Peng Jingtang was previously chief of staff of the armed police force in Xinjiang, where at least 1 million ethnic Uyghurs have been held in internment camps in the name of counter-terrorism. It's the first time a People's Armed Police official has been appointed to the role and is raising alarm bells about the territory's intensifying crackdown. Local authorities have repeatedly branded elements of the pro-democracy movement as terrorists and have held dozens of opposition politicians in pre-trial detention for over a year under the auspices of national security. Our reporter Ryan Ho-Kilpatrick asked Michael Moe, a former Hong Kong official now living in exile in the United Kingdom, what the likely implications are for the city.
I think that he's been trusted by Xi, and then perhaps it's because of his excellent performance in Xinjiang for cracking down human rights and conducting genocide. There might not be too much for him to maneuver in terms of directly interfering into Hong Kong's law enforcement and so on. But what he might do is to bring in the experience or sharing the lesson learned in Xinjiang to law enforcement, for instance, police, customs, and ICAC. They're not shy to making these exchanges all year long. So there might be some copy and paste of tactics in terms of tackling smuggling or people trying to travel illegally out of Hong Kong, perhaps. Zheng Yanxiong, one of the officials famous dealing with Fukan crackdown, he's now in charge of the Office of Safeguarding National Security. So we have got more like pressure building up in Hong Kong, and I don't feel like it is a good signal.
Speaking of Zheng Yanxiong, I'm sure you also remember in the same year in 2020 when Luo Huining and Xiao Baolong were appointed heads of the Central Government Liaison Office in Hong Kong and Hong Kong Macau Affairs Office. They were both close Xi Jinping allies who came fresh from campaigns repressing Tibetans in Qinghai and Christians in Zhejiang, respectively. And at the time, the local Chinese language press in Hong Kong was percolating with analysis and insights, speculation about what this could mean, the kind of things that the Hong Kong press corps excelled at. But this time around, it seems eerily quiet by comparison. Why do you think that is?
If there were a vibrant press in Hong Kong nowadays, they would have a lot of, you said, analysis and insights. But we see what on the press in Hong Kong right now is full of copy and paste of the press release made by the Central People's Government. One of the famous teams on reporting China in Hong Kong went from cable TV to Citizen News. Of course, right now the outlet is shut down. Chilling effect of national security law is there. And it's really, really getting people nervous for like speaking up, even on this kind of like so-called routine change claimed by the Peking authorities.
8 hours of negotiations between US and Russian officials on Monday failed to bear fruit as impasses on Ukraine and NATO proved difficult to overcome. The discussions in Geneva took place against a backdrop of Russian military buildup at the Ukrainian border, where some 100,000 troops have now gathered. But as James Chater reports, despite the urgency of the situation on the ground, at the negotiating table, the two superpowers remain at loggerheads.
Approaching with caution. A breaking of the diplomatic ice between the US and Russia on Monday, but no breakthroughs, with the superpowers failing to overcome deadlocks on Ukraine and NATO expansion. After the talks, promises from Moscow's lead negotiator that Russia would not invade its neighbour, but clarity also on their opposition to Ukraine joining NATO.
We need ironclad, waterproof, bulletproof, legally binding guarantees, not assurances, not safeguards, guarantees with all the words shall, must, everything that should be put in this bowl, never ever becoming member of NATO.
Russia has said Ukrainian accession to NATO would necessitate a military response, but ruling out access to the military alliance is a non-negotiable for the US, which says NATO must retain its open door policy.
As you've heard many of our national security officials state, but I will reiterate from here, no talks about Europe without Europe, no talks about Ukraine without Ukraine, and that is certainly our mentality.
Low expectations for results from the talks appear to have been justified, but the stakes are high. Negotiations in Geneva took place as some 100,000 Russian troops are stationed at the border with Ukraine, amid growing concerns that a Russian invasion could be imminent.
If Russia chooses the path of conflict, the United States, our partners and allies, have been clear. We are prepared to impose enormous costs on Russia's economy, reinforce NATO's presence in frontline allied states, and increase our defensive assistance to Ukraine.
The swift deployment of Russian forces to quell recent unrest in Kazakhstan has done little to placate concerns over Moscow's military capability. In snowy Kiev, Ukrainians watched on apprehensively as negotiations began. Their government's position is also clear.
So once again, my discussions on the security guarantees should start with the withdrawal of Russian troops from the Ukrainian territory.
Russia will hold talks with NATO in Brussels on Wednesday. But with the positions of major parties leaving little room for maneuver, for those in Kiev, there's little hope of overcoming the icy stalemate. Klein Wang and James Chater for TaiwanPlus.
A fire tore through a refugee camp in southeastern Bangladesh, housing Rohingya refugees from Myanmar on Sunday night, destroying hundreds of homes. 2 of the refugees were injured. According to local officials and eyewitnesses, more than 300 temporary shelters made from bamboo and tarpaulin were destroyed, leaving more than 1,500 refugees, including 750 children, homeless. The cause of the fire is under investigation. Stay with us here on TaiwanPlus. Up next, it just keeps coming and coming. The Pumice problem engulfing Green Island. Details in a moment.
We're not an island of that big of a population.
我觉得角度是一件很重要的事情，因为我想要窥见的是深层的内涵物。
冒险就是追求临界点的艺术。
不是台湾没有这种地方，是我根本没有到过这种地方。
The beauty of Taiwan.
It has a style, it has a voice, it has its own characteristics.
Ni hao is actually very useful when you greet someone in a formal, polite, and professional way.
冒险者回来讲的故事，都会变成那个社会最想听的故事。出发其实就是成功。
Taiwan to the world. See you on TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Thailand's government has announced that it will accept Taiwan's domestically produced Medigen vaccine for travellers coming into the country. It's the 5th country in the world to recognise the vaccine. This comes after Thailand's health ministry announced its intention to consider COVID-19 as endemic this year, citing milder symptoms despite a rise in cases. Over 65% of Thailand's population has been fully vaccinated, but with a new wave of infections fueled by the Omicron variant, the country has recently tightened its virus-related restrictions. Taiwan-Lithuania relations are still reeling from the comments by Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda last week. He said it was a mistake to allow Taiwan to open a representative office in Vilnius under the name Taiwanese. I spoke to Taiwan's representative to Lithuania, Eric Huang, who is based in Vilnius, to find out firsthand what the situation is on the ground. He told me that he believes there will be a rapid growth in trade between the two countries.
The atmosphere remains the same. We are starting our tangible projects and strengthen our relationship with Lithuania.
Has the Lithuanian government asked you to change the name or shut down the office, or have they given reassurances that things will remain the same?
We received no such request regarding the name, the change of the name of our mission. There are no other signals that we received regarding this issue.
On Friday, the Farmers and Greens Union actually did call for a name change. What do you think about public opinion in terms of Taiwan's office?
Well, as a democracy, some people, they think that they should continue supporting the operation and the name of the Taiwanese representative office in Lithuania, while other people, they think they should give up such insistence and cooperate with China.
And the current import level, I believe, is about $37 million. Can that be increased by much more?
I'm confident that in the next few months or in the next few years, that the number of the trade between, especially the export from Lithuania to Taiwan, will be multiple-folded. In the first quarter of this year, that one of the largest online platform, e-commerce platform in Taiwan, PC Home, they are also going to launch a Lithuanian pavilion. We are going to witness rapid growth, increase in the volume of trade between Lithuania and Taiwan.
A major part of the support for the president comes from rural areas dominated by agriculture. And last time we spoke, you mentioned that food was one of the top priorities, whether there's any Lithuanian foods that we can start to enjoy in Taiwan.
Beers and chocolate, and of course, those are the signature products of Lithuania. We are now opening the market for grains in the next few months or even faster. I can assure you that by living in Lithuania, the Lithuanian milk or dairy products are of the highest quality in the world.
I guess processed dairy, you are talking about cheese, perhaps?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
I have tested a special kind of cheese here, and you can find it in the supermarkets in Lithuanian market. The Taiwanese love seafoods a lot. It tastes a little bit like the cream of a crepe. We used to enjoy cheese from New Zealand, from America, the wonderful dairy products from Lithuania. I will encourage the Taiwanese to test and to experience.
In a world first, doctors have successfully transplanted a pig heart into a human being. David Bennett Sr. of Maryland in the United States made medical history when he received the transplant. He suffered from life-threatening heart arrhythmia and did not qualify for a traditional organ transplant. The revolutionary surgery used the heart from a genetically modified pig to prevent immediate rejection. Doctors say it is a major breakthrough and may help to relieve the chronic shortage of donor organs. A Taiwanese university and optoelectronics company have developed an app to detect a condition characterized by an irregular heartbeat. They hope it will help to better identify people who suffer from atrial fibrillation, which can lead to blood clots in the heart. Usually it is detected through a specialized test, but as Louise Watt reports, developers say this app can detect the condition.
Open an app, place your finger in front of the phone's camera lens, and get a result in 1 minute. A doctor from National Taiwan University Hospital's Xinjiang branch says it's as simple as that.
是利用光学的方式去侦测我们心脏的脉搏，它作为这个心房颤动的侦测，就兼具了这个方便性、便利性，而且价格跟使用性都非常的简单。
The app uses a cell phone's high-definition camera lens to detect a person's pulse and changes in blood volume. It then determines the potential risk for atrial fibrillation. People suffering from this common type of heart arrhythmia don't always have symptoms like palpitations and breathing difficulties that would flag a warning. The prevalence rate for people aged 65 and over is 8% to 10%. Another NTU hospital doctor describes what happens.
每分钟70下的速度放电，那可是如果说心房它生病，可能这个电流呢就会在里面乱窜，它的风险就会增加死亡，大概2倍到3倍，心脏衰竭，那中风大概就5倍到8倍，那事实上还有很多生活品质的变差，包括他的运动能力变差、喘、心悸。
Electrocardiograms and other wearable devices can be used to monitor the heart, but they may not be as convenient or efficient. The accuracy rate of this smartphone app is reported to be 95%, and it's already been approved by Taiwan's health ministry. Its creators say it's the first of its kind developed in Asia, and hope it will serve as a new self-detection tool, putting the public's health at their fingertips. Chris Ma and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
A plane pilot was rescued just seconds away from disaster after crashing on train tracks in Los Angeles, California. Police body cam footage captured the dramatic events. The Cessna plane crashed shortly after takeoff on Sunday, coming down on the rail tracks in a busy LA neighborhood. Police responded to the emergency and pulled the unarmed pilot from the wreckage just moments before oncoming train hit the crashed plane. The pilot suffered only minor injuries, and the responding officers are being hailed as heroes for risking their own lives to save his. Taiwan's remote Green Island has been struggling to fend off a tide of floating pumice stones that have been coating the coastline for months. It is now calling on the central government for help. Philip Brassard has the story.
Taiwan, like many countries, struggles with pollution on its shores. But on a tiny island off the southeastern coast of Taiwan, the problem has taken a unique turn. Pumice, a volcanic rock, has been continually washing ashore on Green Island. The waves of pumice began in the summer of last year, when an underwater eruption near Japan's Ogasawara Islands sent volcanic debris flowing along ocean currents. It soon started appearing off Taiwan's coast. On Green Island, the local agriculture authority is footing the bill to clean up the fishing harbors. But the once white beaches have been left for volunteers to tidy up. Tourists come to Green Island for its white beaches and unique biodiversity. But those beaches are now gray, and authorities worry that the stones could also cause harm to the local ecology. Green Island Township Chief Xie Xianyu is calling on the central government to help, but not everyone agrees that the natural rock is a cause for concern.
我认为它是一个天然的产物啦。那如果它在没有影响到大家生活或者是观光的状况下，我们会希望它就继续留在海滩上。
For now, the island is using every resource it can to remove wave after wave of pumice from its beaches as it tries to dig through a seemingly endless task. Kama Xu and Philip Brassard for TaiwanPlus.
There's a baby eel gold rush in southern Taiwan. Fishermen in Pingdong County's Fongliao are reaping profits from the abundant catch brought by the Kuroshio Current, the biggest current in the Western Pacific. Our reporter Pichi Zhuang has the story.
Fishing lines dot this coast along the Taiwan Strait as the Kuroshio or Black Stream Current flows northward to Japan. The dark, warm waters bring with it an abundance of marine life, and fishermen come from all over Taiwan to make their catch.
枋寮附近海域近几年来少有的盛况也有很多外县市甚至最远从宜兰来的这个捕捞鳗苗的渔船。
This bag contains around 2,700 eel fry, which will fetch about $10,000 at the market. Wild eel fry season lasts from November to February, and at $3.5 each. Many fisherfolk rake in over $36,000 for 3 days' work. because the crucial current branches of here. Pingtung County is seeing its best eel fry catch since 2019.
鳗苗是从菲律宾走黑潮来台湾的，来台湾之后黑潮分成2路，一路是主流是从台湾东部过，一直到日本去。台湾海峡那里还有一个支流，有时候就会走切进来的比较多，就会造成那个屏东那里苗多。
Authorities say that since mid-December, fishing groups have caught 260,000 eel fry. And because of a high demand in Japan, prices will only keep rising. That's good news for these fishermen who work overnight, hopeful of a windfall ahead of the Lunar New Year. Rick Yi and Peter Zhang for TaiwanPlus.
Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. We leave you with footage of British largest ever sea dragon, ichthyosaur fossil. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the Taiwan app. Stay safe and see you next time.